This is Dr. Neufeld presenting my notes on geography, continents and bodies of water. We're going to be spending time on geography all year long because we're in 7th grade world history. We're going to be learning about what happened in North America, South America, Europe, Asia, and Africa. So, in fact, you're going to find out that we are going to have a geography quiz every Friday. We're going to be starting off with the continents and bodies of water, but then when we move on to the units where we're studying each continent, we're going to be looking at countries individually. These notes here, these slides are on my website, drneufeld.com. This video is also on my website, drneufeld.com. So you can review this, play it again, reread the notes, go over more detail. Remember, you can contact me during office hours to go over any questions that you might have. Also, you're going to be getting some practice exercises on this on Edpuzzle, Pear Deck, Quizlet, etc. So first, though, you're taking Cornell notes on this. Cornell notes, remember, you're going to be writing down important things that you're learning that you did not know. Now, remember, you're not copying everything down here. I want you to put it in your own words and write down what is new to you. Right now, we're going to be looking at continents around the world. Now, again, I know I go kind of fast on these notes. That's why it's on my website, both my slides and video, so you can take your time and go over it into more detail. Okay, and looking at the world, there are 7 continents. There is North America, but it is broken into 2 parts. There is far North America, and there's also Central America. We're going to go in more detail on this a little later, because Central America is part of North America. I'll go over that in a minute. Then we have South America, continent number 2. Number 3, Europe. Number 4 is Asia. But Asia also, some scientists say that Europe and Asia are actually one continent. And when they call it one continent, they call it Eurasia. Just keep this in mind. Most scientists, archaeologists call it 2 continents. So we're calling it Europe and Asia. Then there is Africa, where mankind started. Australia. Australia is an odd continent because many people say it's the only continent that is its own country. Actually, there's a couple of really tiny countries right around it, so there's a little more than one. But it is odd that so many of the other continents have many countries, and Australia only has a couple. Then another weird continent, Antarctica. It's not a country at all. It's all ice, all frozen land. And that is why it's not ruled by any country. All the countries and the scientists in these countries share Antarctica. And Antarctica is the South Pole. Remember, we have a North Pole and a South Pole. The South Pole is land covered with frozen water, with ice and snow. But the North Pole is not land. The South Pole and the North Pole look exactly the same, but one is land covered with frozen water and one is just frozen water. We're going to go through that a little more detail in a minute. Again, they look the same, but one is frozen land and the other one is frozen water. I'll show you our map in a minute. Okay, let's look at a map of all 7 continents. Okay, here's a world map. Remember, this is not really accurate because it's a flat piece of paper. The world is really round, and you're going to see how some of the maps I'm going to show you look a little different. This is where North America is located on a flat map. And to go into a little more detail, you could see how it's quite large. For the United States, our 48 contiguous states are down here, and then we have Alaska up here and Hawaii over here. Also part of North America is Canada and Greenland. But also, this area here is called Central America. It is part of North America. It's not its own land. And this is where there are many smaller countries like Guatemala, Nicaragua, Panama. There are also many islands down here. Haiti, Dominican Republic, Cuba, Jamaica, Puerto Rico, which is part of the United States. So all of this is North America. Now, this is South America. Again, look at a flat map. You can see how it is connected with North America. The difference is right here. You can see how here's Panama. This is part of Central America. Central America is part of North America. But this is where North America ends, this tiny little spot, and this is where South America begins. Now, the primary language in every country except one in South America is Spanish because Spain conquered all of this land. But Brazil, their number one language is not Spanish, it is Portuguese because the Portuguese conquered this land. But you can see many different countries down here: Argentina, Peru, Chile, Ecuador. So we're going to be studying this, the people of these lands, a little bit later in the year. Okay, this is Europe, one of the smallest continents. Countries are much smaller, but it has many, many countries. One interesting thing about this too is most people, many of these countries here, they have a different language, different customs, different traditions, different food, different everything. Very different, say, from North America and South America, where there are many similarities. I think many of you have heard of most of these countries already: Spain, Portugal, France, Germany, Poland, England, Hungary, Switzerland, Italy. All of this is part of Europe. Here's Asia. Asia is a very large continent. Now, many people in the United States tend to think that maybe everyone in Asia speaks Chinese. Well, China is a very large country in Asia, but there are many other countries. This is kind of like Europe. Many countries with different customs, traditions, religions, food, everything. We have the North and South Korea, Japan, we have Vietnam, Thailand, India, we have Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, Jordan, many different countries, even many island countries like the Philippines, Indonesia, many different customs and traditions all throughout Asia. Also, you can see I noted here there are two big countries that are both in Europe and Asia. There's Russia. Now, this gray line here, this separates Europe and Asia. But Russia is this entire big country here. It's the largest country in the world. So most of Russia is in Asia, but this small part is in Europe. You can't see it on this map, but also Turkey. Most of Turkey is in Asia, but then there's a little tiny part of Turkey in Europe. And I'll talk more about that because I've been to Turkey and Russia and these countries, especially here along the border between Europe and Asia. So I'll explain more of that when we're studying that unit. Africa, this is the continent where all of mankind started. Mankind started in this part of Africa, then the people slowly would migrate to the north. After thousands of years, mankind decided to see what else is up here. Then mankind migrated from Africa to Europe and Asia, went through the frozen ocean and made it into the Americas, but mankind started here. Now, many different customs and traditions here in Africa as well, many different languages. One interesting thing we're going to learn about when we're studying Africa is that Europe at one point controlled almost all of Africa, about 90%. And that's why, though there are many different languages in Africa, there are, most of the countries have a second language, a European language. It can be English, French, German, Portuguese, Italian, but we'll talk about more of that when we get to Africa. Australia, it's the one country that is its own continent. Now, like I said, most people think it's just one country and one continent, but there are a couple of other smaller ones on the side here, like New Zealand, Tasmania, that are part of the Australian continent, but not part of the country. But there's only a couple, not like all of the other continents that we studied. So fascinating. Now, they have native indigenous people in Australia, but most people in Australia are English because Australia at one point was a gigantic jail for people from England. And that's why people in Australia have the same English language, customs, traditions, even the dialect as people in England. So, and our seventh continent is Antarctica. Now, when we look at a flat paper map like this, it looks like it's long and skinny, but in reality, here's what Antarctica really looks like. It's almost a round circle. Remember, I said that the South Pole is land frozen over, and that's why you see just snow. The North Pole, though, is not land. It is just water that's frozen over, and it's snow. So they look the same, but the South Pole, Antarctica, is actually land. Also, what's fascinating is when you see it in a circle like this, look at the continents and how close some of them are to Antarctica. For example, South America, this is Argentina down here, how close they are to Antarctica. Australia is quite close. Here's New Zealand. Remember, I said they're part of Australia, but they're an independent country. What's interesting is I visited down here Cape of Good Hope in South Africa, and I thought it was going to be much, much colder because I thought it was a lot closer to Antarctica. But then when I visited there, I noticed it's not as cold and full of snow like I thought it was going to be. In fact, I didn't see snow when I was in South Africa in the wintertime. Then I looked at a map like this and I could see how they're quite a distance from Antarctica, and that's why it may not get some snow up there, but fascinating. Now let's take a look at some important bodies of water. There are hundreds of bodies of water throughout the world. We're only going to learn the main ones. Remember, when you're taking your Cornell notes, you have this headline on the left-hand side, and now you're going to be jotting down parts that you did not know on the right-hand side. So there are 4 oceans around the world, the major bodies of water. They are the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, the Indian Ocean, and the Arctic Ocean. Remember, Antarctica is land covered with snow. The Arctic Ocean is just water that is frozen. But there are other bodies of water, depending on their size and circumference, depending on where they're located, how much they're circled by land, etc. Other bodies of water called seas or gulfs. Now, there's thousands in the world. We're only going to learn a couple. For example, we are going to learn throughout the year about the Mediterranean Sea. I'll show you on the map in a minute. Very important in world history. And the reason I want to show you about the Gulf of Mexico is because it's so close to us and part of our history in this country. Now let's take a look at a few maps and I'll show you where these bodies of water are located. Now again, looking at a flat map of the world, you see that it looks like there's 2 Pacific Oceans, over here and over here. But if you were to put this map together in a circle, like a globe, that's why they touch on each side. This is a map of the world that we tend to use traditionally here in the Americas. They have another map, though, where this is in the center, so then the Pacific Ocean looks like it's the same. Okay, so here's the Pacific Ocean, here's the Pacific Ocean, but you put this flat map together and they touch. Or here is a round map. And this, it does not put the Americas in the center, it puts us on the side. And now you can see one gigantic Pacific Ocean. This is the part north of the equator, this is the part south of the equator, but all of this is the Pacific Ocean. Here's North America, here's Los Angeles where we are, here's Mexico, here's South America, and this is Asia. So for us in North America, the Pacific Ocean is on our west coast, but for Asia, for China, and other large countries, Russia, it is on their east coast. So this is the Pacific Ocean. Here's the Atlantic Ocean. Now on a flat map, it's right in the center, so there's only one, just like Pacific Ocean. You can see it on this round map. Atlantic Ocean, this part is north of the equator, this part is south, but it's one Atlantic Ocean. Here's the United States, so the Atlantic Ocean is on the east coast, but it's the west coast of Europe, and it's the west coast of Africa. This is the Atlantic Ocean. Remember, down here is Antarctica, up here, and right here you don't see any brown, you don't see land. This is frozen water up here. Indian Ocean. Indian Ocean is quite large, and that's why it's named after India, which is right here. But see, on both maps, see how far it goes down. And that's why it is quite large, almost like the Pacific and the Atlantic Ocean. India is right here. Now it's the east coast of Africa. It's the west coast of Australia and the islands of Asia. This is the Indian Ocean. Arctic Ocean. Remember, the Arctic Ocean is at the top. It's frozen water. There's no land there. And if you look in a circle, you can see how it's all water. But again, South Pole, which is the Arctic Ocean, looks just like the North Pole. The Arctic Ocean looks just like the South Pole, Antarctica, because it's all snow. But if you look underneath, this is water. Also, you could see the other continents here. Here's North America. So here is Alaska, the United States. Here's Canada, and then the United States, we're a little bit lower. Here is Asia. Now, all of this part and the north part of Asia is Russia. China is down further, but all of this is Russia. And here is Europe. Remember, Russia is split. A little bit of Russia is here in Europe, but most of Russia is in Asia. And this is the Arctic Ocean. Also, notice how it's spelled and listen to how it's pronounced. Many people say Arctic. No, it's not Arctic, it's Arctic. Same for Antarctica. It has a C. Double check your spelling. Okay, here's some other bodies of water like the Mediterranean Sea. The Mediterranean Sea, this little body of water here between Europe and Africa. This is really important in history because the Roman Empire started here and they expanded and took all of this land in Europe, Western Asia, and North Africa. So this was like an ocean to them. It was the biggest part of the Roman Empire, all of this water. Now, sometimes some people think the Mediterranean Sea might be fresh water, not seawater, because some people look at this map and they say, it's all cordoned off by itself. But no, it's not. Right over here is the Strait of Gibraltar. This is about 30 miles between Spain in Europe and Morocco and Africa. And so this is ocean water that comes in here. When we're studying about Islam, I'll show you some pictures because I've been into this area. I visited Spain and Morocco and I went across this Strait of Gibraltar. So this is the Mediterranean Sea. And this is the Gulf of Mexico. This small pocket of water here. Important in the United States. Here's Texas. Here's Florida. It's also important for Mexico, but an important big body of water, the Gulf of Mexico. So you'll be able to practice all of this geography on in Google, but you're going to have a homework assignment like this too that will either be on Google or Edpuzzle. So there'll be some great ways to practice all of this activity. So I hope you're excited about learning about Europe and Asia and Africa and all of the continents of the world, because when you get into ninth grade, let me tell you now that there is an AP class in ninth grade for geography. And many of my former students have taken that AP class, a college class in ninth grade. So we're going to be working on geography all year long. I really hope you learned about this. Email me if you have any questions. Thank you.